good evening. Welcome to another Coffee and Collaborations, the culture versus marriage. And this time we're speaking with the singles to close out the year. I am Kimberly Winborn of Kimberly Winborn LLC, founder of Coffee and Collaborations Media. I'm joined by my co-host. Go ahead, introduce yourself, sir.
I am Al the Great, your neighborhood counterculturalist and CEO of Good Steward Apparel, and just really excited to be here. And this is a great way to end off the year and go into 2022 and hopefully see some marriages. I saw a lot of people get engaged. I don't know about you guys, but throughout COVID, I've seen a lot of people get engaged. So maybe we'll see a whole bunch of marriages in 2022. So it's good to have this conversation.
Absolutely. And so, for those of you who have been with us, this is our fourth edition of the Culture versus Marriage. We had the Culture versus Marriage Husbands Speak. That was the first. It was a success, great conversation. Then we brought on the wives. We had the Culture versus Marriage, the Wives Speak. And then we brought in some couples. Some of them were spouses of the previous couples, but then we also had other additions, and that was the Culture versus Marriage Couples Edition, and now we have the Single Speak. So we are joined by amazing people that we've handpicked. Number one, we have Elena Gilbert of Mind, Body, and Sense LLC. That's my chandelier extraordinaire. Can you introduce yourself, Elena?
Elena's going in now.
Elena's going in and out.
I thought you were about to say something else when you said that's my.
That's my chandelier. And
Yeah, I thought you was going to say something else.
well, for those of you who don't know, a chandelier is a person who makes candles, and she is amazing. So you're back, Elena. I think maybe she's getting like notifications or something, and it's making her go in and out. So we'll go to Brittany. If you could introduce yourself.
Hi, how y'all doing tonight? My name is Brittany, and I am glad to be here.
Awesome, awesome. And we have the date coach and relationship expert, Valden Johnson. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Valden?
Hey, thanks for having me. My name is Valden. I am a matchmaker and a relationship consultant. So I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Absolutely. I'm glad to have you here. And then let's see. Okay, I see Elena down there. Let's see if we can get her back in here. Welcome back.
Woo, I got so nervous. Hello.
Hello. I don't know if you heard me. I was sharing we were going around sharing who was on, and I was saying for everybody to say who you are and what you do.
Okay, well, hi, my name is Elena Gilbert. I am a full-time banking manager and also a full-time candle maker. The name of my business is Mind, Body, and Sense.
Absolutely wonderful. And I was saying you are my chandelier, and I love you. And so we're supposed to have another guest. He was wrapping up at work. So when he comes on, we'll introduce him. So Al, you were talking about couples getting engaged and marriages, and some of the things that we've been able to do with this show is really talk about the culture versus marriage. And so can you break down for those who have not seen any of the shows? Guys, make sure to follow Coffee and Collaborations and go back and watch those live shows. They were amazing. I'm not just saying that because this is my platform. They really were. We got so much great feedback from people who said that it was helpful to hear the men's perspective, to hear the women's perspective, then to have some fun couples come on and just give us some spice in our relationship, share a little bit of how they keep their marriages flowing. It's been good. So tell us the inspiration for the whole concept, the culture versus marriage.
Definitely. Starting off, I guess anybody in the chat who has gotten engaged since we've been on lockdown, just go ahead and let us shout you out. Definitely. Like I said, there's been a lot of engagements and a lot of baby making. So we got a lot coming out of this pandemic. But so the reason for this idea is I've been married in double digits now, and I see a lot of the things that are about the culture that not necessarily pro marriage, and there's been some things that are very unique to our generation or our generation or to earlier modern marriages, and it's been I've seen the stress that the culture can put on marriage, especially I think the culture is not for marriage as much as it was before. I think a lot of us still feel like marriage is a good foundation, but I feel like the culture is like just get out there, you can have your cake and eat it too. It doesn't even matter. So I thought it was good to at least have these conversations, so other married couples can see that they're not the only ones going through this, but also get the perspective of what they feel like is different. It's good to have the singles on because we want to know how you view marriage, and do you feel like the culture is pro marriage or against marriage? So
Right.
I guess we can start off right there.
Well, let's say hello really quickly. We got Carrie Lynn Miles from Raleigh, North Carolina, who's married. That's my sister. Hey, sister. Then we have Jay Dwayne Garnett, who's saying, hey, peoples. So I want to say hello. For those of you who have just joined us, please put in the comments, where are you watching from? Are you single or married? And we want to welcome you to, this is our final show for 2021. We're ready and geared up to go into 2022. And so we wanted to close out with a bang. All right, back to you, Al, with your question.
So let's start off with that. So looking at I love statistics. I am a data geek. I love data. So half of Americans ages 18 and older in 2017 were married. I didn't even know that. That seems like a huge number to me. But now it's down like 8% since 1990. So while Americans they're still getting married, they're waiting longer before they get married. Do you think our culture is pro marriage, or do you think it's not for marriage, and why?
All right, so let's start with Brittany, top right for me, and welcome, Kellen. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you said it right. What's going on,
Okay.
everybody?
Awesome. So this is Kelly. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself really quickly?
Yes, I'm Coach Kels. I'm a life coach, entrepreneur. Just basically here to touch bases, connect with some good people, and enjoy the conversation.
Awesome. So
All right, welcome.
He was wrapping up at work, so we already told everybody we appreciate you being here along with our other guests. So back to you, Brittany.
Hey, so when Al, you were speaking, I don't know if it was just me, but you were breaking up a little bit.
Who, me?
No, Al, like his question.
Okay.
So what I was saying was, and since 2017, half of Americans ages 18 and older were married in 2017. So that's been pretty stable the last few years to current. So right now we are down 8% since 1990. More people were getting married in 1990 and below that. So now that people are waiting longer to get married, that is affecting the numbers. Do you feel like the culture is pro marriage, or do you feel like it's against marriage, and why?
I would say I don't think the culture is for or against marriage. I just feel like, we're not pushing marriage, and we're not saying don't get married either. I think we all come with our different experiences. And I believe that the older you get, the more you may be into marriage. But nowadays, the younger generation, they're just living their life right now.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. What about you, Elena, and then Kellen? And then we'll go to because I know that Valden loves data. I know this about him. So we're going to go to you. Come on over to you last, Valden.
I would say that it's not that the culture is against marriage or the same thing like Brittany for marriage. The culture right now is about being healthy. and just having a healthy relationship. So not necessarily that we have to be with someone, but we want to make sure that we're healthy first, right? Like self-care is everything. This is like the hot topic. So I would still say, if I had to pick, we're still for marriage, but we just got to do it the right way. And we're just not going to hook up or link with somebody just to be with somebody, because the other big word right now is a narcissist. So if someone is so vain and that you can't tell them anything because they know it all, no one wants to deal with that. So we're not our parents, we're not our grandparents. We're not just going to sit there and just deal with the things that they did just to stay married. I feel like we just have more options.
Good answer.
Okay.
And you brought up a word, so we're gonna get back to that. All right, Kellen.
Yeah, I feel like the culture is forward. I just believe like we lost a few things, between the different generations. I mean, a lot of people, like she said, with self-care, a lot of people's more on that, trying to prepare themselves mentally and emotionally to be in a stable relationship, that they're just not settling like we did in the past. A lot of people would settle just to keep a relationship going for children or things like that. I think now just more people are their eyes are open more and they want to make sure before they jump into something. Whereas back in the day was just, if you were there, you were just there. Like she said, we just got more options now.
More options. So that's so you said settling. So that's a big word for me. So settling because they didn't have as many options, it sounds like is what you're saying. Does everybody agree that it was settling, or do you think that there was a level of commitment? Because the conversation could go any way. And so we can put a tab in it. We can put a tab in it and get over to Valden. But I want to talk about that word settling in response to what Kellen just said. Valden, what are your
And I think
thoughts on the last question?
Maisha has a comment about that too. I think we can address too. But we'll let you go, Valden.
She said, I don't believe we have more options. I feel like this generation just exercises their right to options more. So we don't have more options, but we exercise our right to seek out options and live out the options that we have. Okay. Thank you, Maisha. Go ahead, Valden. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah, so I think marriage is being redefined today. But my experience so far is that I don't think the culture is against or for marriage, as everybody else said on the panel. I talked to hundreds and hundreds of singles, and there are lots of people who still want to get married, a lot of people who don't want to get married. All right, so I don't necessarily think that the culture is against it. There are a lot of things in our society that work against marriage, and I think a lot of more people would be for marriage if they didn't consume so much information. Like that's down a whole nother topic when we get into that. But to answer your question, I'm like the rest of the crowd, like half and half, for lack of a stronger number.
Miss Cheryl said, I think there was a greater level of commitment in the past. Now, what that looks like, okay, because commitment for one person is different than another, right? And so she says there's a different greater level of commitment in the past. And that is a long, lengthy conversation that can be had about commitment. I'm going to put a pin in that for right now as well. Maisha says, back in the day, our grandparents stayed because they were more committed. So y'all see a thread here on commitment. And then lastly, the older generation didn't have the access to information. So they didn't have the perspective of today's society. That echoes what Valden just said. Let's talk about that for a second. Commitment and settling. Let's talk about that. Can you expand on what you meant by that, Kellen, so we can dive into that?
I just feel like I don't feel like people are scared to commit. I feel like people are just more willing to wait to commit. They want to be sure, with all the damage that's been done in relationships, in certain generations where there's emotional, physical. I think more people are just reluctant to do it because they're scared. I think more people want to do it, but the notion of being hurt over and over again, I think it just makes them back away from it. I just view it as that pretty much.
Any other feedback from anybody else?
I would say, our grandparents had different values and different virtues. Like we don't even get married today for the same reasons that our grandparents got married.
Mhm.
Marriage is a platform for building, and they went into it with that understanding in the old days. Like our grandparents didn't, they weren't going through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 women. They knew they wanted to start a family, and pretty much when they found somebody that was compatible with starting a family, they started a family. There are other reasons why people got married. I'm in the process of studying the lineage of marriage and the history of marriage and the fact that marriage changes to fit the needs of society. And that's the reason why I said earlier in this conversation that marriage right now is in the process of being redefined. We can't compare marriage today to what our grandparents did, because we're not the same people as our grandparents. We don't have the same social influences that our parents had. We don't have the same economic influences that our grandparents had. So a lot of that plays a role into marriage today.
That's good. Marriage changes to fit the needs of society, and back in the day was a platform for building. Both great points. Somebody,
I gotta
Kellen was talking about fear. I'm gonna come right to you, Elena. Kellen was talking about fear, so we're gonna jump back to fear in just a minute. Go ahead, Elena.
So it's kind of, we can't compare today to our grandparents, because if we have so many more stories that's coming out where they stayed together but they wasn't happy, and I can speak about my grandparents. On my dad's side, my granddaddy had a whole different family. He was still married to my grandma, but today's time, we're not like even though my grandmother was a nurse, she still didn't have the means to take the 5 kids that she had and go live on her own. So for whatever reason, she stayed and she dealt with it. And my dad and his siblings were subject to seeing their father take better care of another household. So again, I think we have this idea of what marriage was in the olden days or generations past. And I think for the most part it was, but more stories are coming out. It wasn't as great as we thought it was. And that goes back to my point. Like, we have more options, like just women being able to work. I don't have to sit here and deal with this because you're my income. I got my own income. I can have my own household. So that goes back to my point about options.
Absolutely.
Can I say one more thing about that? She makes a very good point, and she put a bow on it. She's absolutely right. But I'll say this: our grandparents didn't get married to be happy, and that's one of the differences between society back then and society now. Everybody works to be happy. Like I wouldn't get married if it didn't mean, or if I wasn't looking for happiness. And women typically don't want to get married if they don't at least see the hope of happiness. But they had a bigger. That's the reason why I said we don't have the same virtues and values as our grandparents did, because family was more important, right? And and they had a lot more to learn. But that's a long conversation. But she's absolutely right. Most of us have grandparents. My granddad had a different family, and happiness just wasn't in the same place in society. When it comes to marriage, we got married for different reasons.
I would really like for us to have that conversation, because I love what you said about happiness. That is one of the defining factors, and I think we have to compare marriages from then and now, because we have to be able to take some foundational piece of what worked and what didn't work, as just being able to learn from it. But I think the happiness piece is a very much a defining factor. Like, I think so many people view happiness as, especially our marriages today, like we get married for someone else to make me happy, when you have to be in charge of your own happiness. But I see so many people that go into marriage for some type of wholeness, when you have to be, and us, don't get me wrong, a certain part of our culture is about self-care and about these other things. But another part of our culture is that women aren't whole unless they have a man, so it is that, that is a defining factor about happiness, where, we're the older generation. Happiness wasn't about, somebody making you happy. It was about, not just a feeling. And I think we are so controlled on our feelings and just our urges so much in just our modern times. I think it makes a huge difference.
So Maisha
Well,
said, good point. And then Cornelia said, the emergence of women and success has changed the necessity to settle or compromise for marriage in 2021. The business side of marriage has changed the happiness side. And that's a really good point, and a whole other conversation about the business side of marriage and to your point, Al, from then to now, and how we look at the business side of marriage, back to what Valden was saying versus what we today would say is the business side of marriage, and how we disagree with it or agree with it, So Brittany, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I just want to touch base on a few things that was said. First of all, because we have so many options, I think that's where the lack of commitment comes in, because you're not really committed because you think, okay, well, if this doesn't happen, then I can do this, or if that doesn't happen, I can do this. We always have things going on, a backup plan. And I'm not saying just sit there in your relationships and endure abuse or anything like that. But I think that people are so, it's so easy to give up because you feel like you have so many options. And to touch base on what Al just said, I talk about this with my friends all the time. It is our job to come into relationships happy and healthy. It's not my partner's job to complete me. I don't know if you guys are religious or not, but it's, only God can complete us. So our partner's job is to enhance that happiness. If they're taken away from it all the time, then that's when you may need to reevaluate some things. But
Yeah.
it's not their job to make us happy.
Yeah. And we were talking, that's a great point. We were talking earlier about fear. And I think this is one of those components as far as today's woman and or man, why we don't settle, to Kellen's point, or why we don't commit, to a couple of you all's point about commitment, is that because of fear, because of something that you saw. So maybe you saw that your grandfather had another family and you were like, I don't want that for myself. And so I'm motivated to just stay single because I'm not going to put myself in that situation, potentially never, ever experiencing that. But that particular experience making a difference in your choices and decisions. I know for me, my grandparents are still together. My grandfather, he's the sweetest he wants to be now, but when we were younger, he was so mean. And he was mean to my grandmother. And I always said I would never be have this sort of situation. So a lot of my relationship foundation was on looking at that and saying, I'm afraid to have anything similar to that. So I'm not going to even open myself up sometimes in relationships, because if anything looks like that, I'm out. And so how much of running away from commitment do you all think is founded in fear? And Kellen, you want to start with that question? How much do you think? Because people say, I don't want anybody, I'm happy being single. But when you really break it down, there's some underlying stories that are motivating that reality for them. So how much do you think the running away from relationships, lack of commitment, is founded in fear?
And can I throw something in there real quick? Just another stat. Among those ages 65 and older, the divorce rate has roughly tripled since 1990. So along with what Kimberly said, with knowing that, divorce rates have tripled, does that add on some extra fear about getting married?
Well, let me add to this real quick. The divorce rate, back to what Valden was saying, marriage is redefined. So now we have added to the divorce rate different types of marriages, not just the man and the woman. So that's something that too we have to consider in those numbers that I don't think is really talked about as a lot. As the culture changes and marriage is redefined, the divorce rate is going to be different, because now you have LGBTQ, you have different types of marriages happening too. So more divorce opportunity. So anyway, back to Kellen. Good stats. Thank you.
I say for me, I think it's just, people, they're tired of being hurt. I know for a long time, I've heard the saying, When a woman's sick and tired of being sick and tired, sick and tired, it's the same thing for everybody, men, women, they're sick and tired of being hurt, so that fear, of loss, of support, all of those things. I mean, people just don't want to deal with it. So it's easier to be single and by yourself and do what you want to do than to have to deal with somebody else, and their burden of them not being happy or trying to make you happy. I hear, like my guy said, people want to be healthy before they go in and happy before they go into something. It's not that other person to be job to make them happy. But I feel like in a relationship, it's both individuals' job to make each other happy in a sense, because I can't be happy by myself and we're together and we're not making each other happy. I mean, you can cross the road either way, so to me, I've always heard that, but I've always felt still I have to make the other person happy in some type of way. So I mean, fear goes a long way. I think just over time, people just got tired of the same stuff, tired of being hurt.
Yeah. Yep. Any follow up to that?
Yeah. So I don't understand the fear aspect, to be honest, because the way I operate my life, I'm not going to base it off of what someone else went through. Right. Because that's their journey. That's their life. That's their path.
Right.
Like, I'm going to take notes and nuggets to try to do my best not to do the same thing or to experience that heartache. But at the same time, I love love. I'm single, never been married, but I love love. I aspire to have that. But at the same time, because I make my own money, I am independent, thank God. And I have options. It's just, I'm not just going to be with anybody. It is a certain level that you got to meet if you're trying to step to me. And I'm okay with that, but it's not a fear for me. It's just more of, like I said, standard. Yeah. But it's not fear-based with me.
Yeah. And I think that's really great. And it's growth, like, because you maybe you see different stages in your life and people's lives where do you realize, like, you looking at something else and now, okay, this is what I want for me. Let me take on the journey to achieve that for myself, not looking at anything else. And that's growth. Like, that's a mindset that more people should have. But unfortunately, many of us weigh our lives on negative experiences, and that becomes our motivation. Did anybody else have something to add to that question about fear and commitment?
Well, I'll just co-sign on the idea that people are in fear. Like, I can tell you that most of the women that want to be married are terrified of the man, and the men are terrified of the women. And a lot of this is because of the rhetoric that goes around from red pill movements and stuff like that. And you guys can look on Facebook and see how much divisiveness is around, and people are willing to talk about the problems all the time, but nobody's talking about any of the solutions that can bring us together. Like, I can't find one community of people that are out there working on the solutions and kind of trying to put aside all of the divisiveness. And it's for that reason that there's so much fear. I mean, I hear it. I hear the trauma in people's voices when I ask, because I ask these questions in my community all the time. Where women, do you want to be married? Now, there are a lot of women who want to be married, and you would think their answer would be yes, but they always say something like, yeah, if he's the right one, and yeah, if he doesn't do this, and yeah, if a whole list of things, right? And that's an indication that there's underlying trauma that won't let them move forward, underlying trauma and fear.
Right. Absolutely. And Dion earlier echoed trauma. She said trauma bonding. Woo. That is a reality too, that some people attract each other because of their trauma, and they can never make each other happy because they need to go through whatever journey it is to be healthy and whole for themselves first before somebody else. Valden, that was a great point. So let's go through some of the comments really quickly, and then Al, you want to set us up for the next topic. Maisha said, I think a fact that should be mentioned is how access to people has changed versus years ago. And this is in our conversation when we were talking about the older generation versus today's generation. Dion brought up Devin and Megan Good. So I don't remember his last name right now, but Megan Good is an actress, and Devin was her pastor husband, and they just recently got divorced, or are getting divorced rather, after 9 years of marriage. It seems to be a really hot topic that's trending, probably because he's a pastor, and their sort of celibacy and standard that they set for their marriage in the beginning, as well as some other things. So that's really a hot topic. Many people are using the internet to meet, no longer taking the time to know and or understand one another. Okay, that's interesting. More people are using the internet to meet. James said the moral decay of society is destroying the family unit and marriage. Well, we can have a long conversation about that statement. That's a bold, strong statement. She said that's true because there are compromises. I believe Miss Cheryl was agreeing with you, Elena, on learning for yourself and knowing for yourself. And then you can enhance their happiness, but it's hard to make a person who isn't happy internally happy. And then James said one cannot teach or model what they have not learned. Okay. That's a good point. That is a good point, because I think many times people do try their best, especially, say for instance, a single mother. That's just for an example, who is trying to raise a son. Is that true? Can you teach or model what you have not learned, or can you also be able to give nuggets based on experiences? That's a whole other topic. Maybe we'll get into it. But Al, I'm gonna give you the floor back to go to the next question.
All right. So another one of our questions, and it has been an extreme hot topic in past shows. I would love to get you guys' take on this as well. What is the role of a girlfriend versus wife, and boyfriend versus husband? What is the difference? Is there a difference? Let's go with Miss Brittany first.
Wow, I wasn't ready for that question. The role between a girlfriend and a wife and a boyfriend versus husband. I'm looking more into the characteristics of a good relationship, a healthy relationship. When I think about a healthy relationship, I'm saying, do you communicate? Do you trust each other? Do you have that understanding? Do you bring each other peace and all that good stuff? Like I think I don't focus more on the role, to be honest. It would be more focused on having that healthy relationship. That's just how I feel about it.
And I think one of the reasons this question has come up in the past is because how do you know when you move to that next step? You've been a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and then you get married. How do you know what's different in that role? How do you know when you're operating as a wife and you're supposed to be a girlfriend? And it's like, why do we need to get married if you're already operating as my wife? So I think that's one of the reasons that question has kind of come up in the past.
And what one of the wives said about that, she was saying that women have to be careful not to try to show up as the wife when you're a girlfriend, because you could set yourself up for failure. So I think that statement was wrapped around that as well. Of course, just one person's opinion.
So I totally
any
agree.
other feedback?
Yeah, I totally agree with her answer, because most questions I listen to, and I think, can you really answer that question? A blanket statement answer, and you can't really answer that particular question, because so many people get married for different reasons, and we've just got so many different sensibilities and aspirations for relationships. Like that question to me just can't be answered, because what one woman would do in a girlfriend role versus another girl in a girlfriend role depends on what the requirements are of the guy, and vice versa. Like his behavior towards her is really going to depend on the requirements of each other. I think more focus should be on the relationship. I think the role is to assess the core values of the man or the woman, whoever you are in the situation, assess those core values and understand if you guys have, compatibility for marriage, and focus on, mutual respect and what your plan is for being married in the first place. Because, one of the questions I always ask is, why do you want to be married? And you'd be surprised how many people can't even answer that question. Why do you want to get married?
Yeah.
I think it's good to give some real world context. So if you are married, and this is come across my feed a couple of times. So you have this couple, two successful people, and I don't know if they were actors, actresses, artists, or whatever they were. But one bought another, like, a bunch of land, and you had so many comments like, you don't do that for your boyfriend. That's what you do for your husband. I mean, like, spent a lot of money. So I think it's good to give some real world context. Is there a limit of what you're going to do in that role as a boyfriend or girlfriend? And we've already talked about, marriages, some of the older generation marriages more for building.
Yeah.
So can I chime in?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, I think each relationship is different. It's really hard to define, but because if someone has expendable money and maybe they don't want to get married, so they want to buy their boyfriend or their girlfriend all this land, like, it's really nothing wrong for it. I feel like each relationship should define itself. As for me, I do have limitations. I can't see me necessarily buying my boyfriend land, but if I had a boyfriend and we had something solid, I could see us starting a business together, and that could be something that really should be, held off until marriage. But where I am, I really don't have an issue with that. If we're both business minded, he's shown that his growth and success in his business, I'm showing mine, and we want to come together while we're still boyfriend and girlfriend, I'm fine with that. And as I'm aging, my roles and thoughts about marriage and girlfriend boyfriend relationships, it's changed. It literally keeps evolving each year.
Yeah.
I just
think
feel
that's
like
a perfect example of, one of the things to talk about, that you will be willing to start a business with your boyfriend. Like, I think that's a perfect example. People view that differently. What do you guys say?
Yeah, I just feel like it's not really roles. We define these things as roles and limitations, but I feel like when you come in a relationship, you coming in as who you are. If you're a giver, you're going to give. If you're a lover, you're going to love. I've experienced it where somebody, said, well, I had to stop doing certain things because I ain't your wife, I'm your girlfriend. Well, what you're doing is making me want to be your husband, making you want me, so I just feel like these roles can't be defined. It's just who you are in a relationship. And if you connect, then you make it, then, you bounce off each other. You can't really define roles. Things aren't back in the day like they were, where, the man went to work, the lady cooked, this, that, and the third. There's no roles because you have business women, you have business men, you got business teenagers, you got all that type of thing. So I think in a relationship, you shouldn't worry about roles. You should worry about the relationship, like Moses has been saying, worry about relationship, and you be who you are, and then the rest, I just feel like the rest would just fall in line.
I definitely agree with that.
So the next question, and so we don't want to run out of time. Are there rules of dating or standards? And this is kind of piggybacking off of Elena, what she just said. Are there rules of dating or standards that you have set that are non-negotiables for you? And as a result, do you think that you will be single longer based on those standards? So we'll start with you, Elena.
Do I feel like my standards could keep me single longer?
And are there any non-negotiables? Like, do you have standards that are just non-negotiable?
Not really. I mean, this is going to sound so petty. I can't deal with dirty fingernails. I'm just saying, like, I just can't get past that. Okay. That's just like, how you gonna touch me? Because I'm going to be like, oh, did you wash your hands? Like, I just can't get past that. But outside of dirty nails, you just got to be intelligent. You don't necessarily have to be a business owner, but you got to respect what I'm doing, right? You have to be someone that's a go-getter. you know, if anything, or just support the vision. But I really don't. My standard is just, you know, you got to treat people right, treat your mama right. I'm gonna pay attention how you treat people at Walmart. You know, it's kind of like just be a good person and be intelligent. Yeah. And obviously, I got to be attracted to you. Do I feel like my standards would keep me single longer? It is what it is. I mean, I could be in a relationship. I could have been married. You get what I'm saying? But that's not what I wanted. Those aren't the individuals that where I am now I'm attracted to. So I don't feel like I'm being single longer per se. I could be, but I'm okay with that decision because I don't want to settle. I don't want to be with somebody that I'm pulling up at this point in the game. You know, you can't have dirty nails. You got to be smart. You got to be intelligent. I don't think that's a lot.
Let's get a male's perspective on that question. Standards, non-negotiables, and do you think that will keep you single longer?
I mean, I don't really view it no more as like standards. It's just, you know, can we make this happen? Does it connect? Does it click? You know, are we on the same page? Do we vibe? You know, the whole standard thing to me is, I mean, you're not going to like everything about anyone. You know, you're not going to have somebody come in that's going to dot all your I's and cross your T's. That's just not going to happen. Not one person is going to do all that for you. So it's just knowing that person is right for you. You know, for me, that's what it takes for me. Just knowing you right for me. You gonna ride with me. I'm gonna ride with you. We good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So Angie said, "Me too, sis," on the nails. And then she said, "Ambitions, goals, not age 40 plus, and don't have your own ish, car, job, apartment, or home." So she has standards. She like, bam, with the joke.
His mama.
Say what?
That's basic stuff.
He can't be living with his mama.
No, he can't be living with his mama.
Or his mama can't live with him. That's the new one. My mama live with me. Do she?
Is that right? Right. So, next question. So we got 2 answers on that. Okay, awesome. So next question. Do you enjoy being single? Those of you who are single, do you enjoy being single? What are the pros and cons? Let's go to you, Brittany.
Hey, I'm actually dating. I'm in a healthy relationship right now. But I am, you know, still single because I'm not married, and I do enjoy being single. I just have a different outlook on relationships that came with experience. So I'm definitely enjoying it right now.
Awesome. That's good. You know, some people, Angie said nope. So some people, I don't know if she said nope to the question or nope to a comment from before, but she
was saying nope to he can't stay with his mama.
Can't stay with his mama. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
add on that question right there.
Yeah.
I don't have in a relationship. I just have to be who I am. That's my only non-negotiable. I just have to be myself, you know. And as the fella here was saying that, you know, it's not about the standards. You know, J. Cole's song, "Nobody's Perfect, but You're Perfect for Me." That's what it's about, like connecting and just having those healthy character traits in your relationship. Just being the communicator, being honest, being trustworthy, you know, being respectful, all those good things come and, you know, along with the relationship. Is not necessarily having standards, just saying, hey, you know, this is what works for us. And it's not always about, sometimes you get caught up, it's all about us. Like, you didn't do this for me, you don't do that. But it's about both of you in a relationship. So I think that we just need to, you know, just be open-minded, be understanding, and just think about it as what's best for y'all, not always what's best for one.
Angie said, yes and no. I have peace of mind, single, and don't want drama. I will compromise, but not settle. I have a question I want to shoot over to Valden. Because you are around a lot of singles in the dating scene, let's talk about that for a second. Do you find that most people feel that it's an encouraging place to be these days or discouraging? And are many talking about online dating as a major option for them, as a primary option? And then for those of you on the panel who are single. Is it encouraging the dating scene or discouraging, and is online dating an option for you? So we'll start with Valden.
So the two sets of people. There are people who hang out on social media. Those people are very discouraged about relationships and marriage. There are people out there in the real world, the community of people I hang out in the real world. They still have a lot of hope and a lot of respect for and aspirations to be in relationships. And I think I understand the reasons why, but that's the answer to the first question.
Mm-hmm.
What was the second question? I think there were two questions in there.
So the first question was, is it encouraging or discouraging? And is online dating an option for those singles that you're in connection with?
Yeah.
Is
So
that the major option?
Absolutely. So most single people feel like it's their only option. Now, we know it's not their only option, but most single people feel like it's their only option. So we coach along those lines also, because online dating is it's a tool, right? It's just like anything else. If you use a tool correctly, you can get some success. Now, whether you're on Tinder or Bumble or Match.com will kind of determine what level of seriousness you're likely to run into. But people have been successful on just about all of the platforms. I think people use online. Most of what I hear is people use online dating because they feel like they don't have another choice. And ultimately, a lot of those people say, hey, I'm giving up online dating. I can't stand it. I had a horrible experience, only to turn around and try to do it again another 3 months from now. But yeah, they use online dating.
Let's go to Kellen on that one. So do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes.
All right. So we're talking about the dating scene. First of all, is it encouraging or discouraging? And is online dating an option for you? So one of the things I do hear men say when it comes to the dating scene is that women are expecting men to go broke, and that they want more equality with like going out and different things like that. So just want to throw that out there. But on the dating scene, is it encouraging or discouraging, and is online dating an option for you?
I mean, I think it's encouraging. I just think with all the social media and the DMs and the access, I mean, it makes it harder because, I mean, you could be talking to this person or with this person, they're talking to that person. So, I mean, I think it's encouraging though, because people want to be with someone. They may be discouraged because of all, a few different things, like I stated. As far as the, online dating, I'd rather sit and talk to the person and meet the person. And, you could say and be anybody you want to be online or on the app, but you're going to be you when you sitting in front of me. So I'd rather date like that than, versus using the app, not saying that it wouldn't work, but I would just rather do that.
Right. What about you, Elena?
So I met two boyfriends off of online dating, and I mean, it was fine. They were great people, but personally, I'm not a fan of online dating. As far as the dating scene, it's just interesting. That's all I can say. I could write a book of some horror stories, and then I could write another book about some positive stories. So it's interesting, So for me, I just go out, do my thing, network, and if I meet somebody, I do. But at the end of the day, it's fine if I don't as well.
Right. Miss Cheryl said being single has its benefits. However, life isn't meant to be lived alone. Statistics show that married or people in committed relationships are healthier and live longer. And I have heard that statistic before, especially when it comes to men specifically.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yep.
You were gonna say that, Al?
Yes.
Yeah, that a man with a wife is gonna live a little bit longer than one without. But these men, I think today, are like, whatever. Like, I die. I'll go ahead and die before I.
Yeah. So let me make one statement around that.
Please
that particular statistic, because that statistic goes around a lot, and I hear a lot of men say, hey, living longer is not a plus to me if I'm unhappy. Yeah. Right. And it's something to think about. Like, we could easily get into divisiveness again, but just throwing that statistic that, hey, men live longer. Men, you're right. A lot of men are saying, I don't care about living longer if I can be happier, if I can live my life to its fullest, as a single guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, let's keep it balanced, because there are a lot of men who want to be single, but there's still a lot of men who want to be married. A lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I do know. I think we all know a lot that do and a lot that don't. Same thing with women these days, especially.
Absolutely.
A lot that do want to be married and a lot that do not. And so I don't think there's any right or wrong rhyme or reason, but thank you guys. Did you have any feedback, Brittany, before we move forward?
No, I'm good. We can move forward.
She said, I am complete. All right.
I had a question.
Go ahead.
So I think it has been amazing hearing the contrast between you guys and like the married couples, the ones we've done with the married couples, on how you view marriage and the difference. With you guys not having like the set in stone differences, what does that evolution? I think all of you guys said that you want to get married one day, right? Is that correct? Okay. So what does that evolution look like? Is it a certain amount of time? Like for other singles that are listening to this, for anybody, like how do you know when it's that time to take that step to get married? If a lot of the things that when you are single, you can do some of the same things versus single or married, you can do, some of the same things. So what does that evolution look like? When do you know?
Personally, I feel like that should be geared towards the men, because we're not the ones that's going to get on one knee and ask, and propose. But I feel like
look, that ain't what social media said.
Right. Well, I can't speak for them. Listen, in that regard, I'm traditional for real. You gonna ask me. But I feel like when you get to that place, it's mutual. Like it's not going to be one pulling the other. I guess like you just kind of wake up like, yo, like I can't see myself without you. But you both feel like that, right? You're on the same page. But the time frame, I think it's different for so many people. I know people that's got married within 6 months, and that was like goals, years ago. I was like, oh my God, but then now they're divorced. You got people who waited 10, 20 years, got married, and then they got divorced, or maybe they're still together, so I just feel like each relationship is going to define itself, especially regarding time frame or when but I believe that man gonna have to ask.
I like what you said when you guys feel like you can't live without each other. That's when you can take that step. But it definitely, if the man is going to ask, the woman still has to have it in her mind that she's going to accept it.
Yes.
Yeah, and the man gonna have some type of idea. He ain't gonna just jump out there in public on one knee. Well, some guys I've seen have done it and got denied, but hopefully they would know something.
Yeah. Did anybody else want to tackle that question?
Yeah.
Al, you want to repeat it, or you got it, Brittany?
I got it. So I don't think that time has a factor in it. Again, it could be 6 months, it could be 6 years. Well, for some it could be 6 years, but but it's more about your connectedness, your commitment, the understand all those healthy traits. Like if you know when you're ready and when you're not. If that person is for you and if they're not, it's just coming together. And then something that you were saying earlier, you all have your individual goals, you have your individual purposes. So you should have your own individual, but when you get married, the roles change a little bit. So you not only have your individual purpose, you have your purpose together. And then you start living out that purpose and building on that purpose. I think that's the difference between, being in a relationship and then being in a marriage. Basically what you were just saying a few minutes ago. Like you're coming together and you're filling out your purpose as one, as well as your individual purposes as well.
Okay.
This is a good statement. I love what you just said, Brittany.
Cheryl said she ain't having it.
And then Miss Cheryl, she said, I'm not dating a man beyond 2 years, period.
That's
why
that.
Say what?
I said, well, some for 6, because that's why I was like, nah.
Yeah. Well, and there is that thought that you should know, or a man knows within a certain window. Some people say within the first year. Some people say within the first 2 years that he would know if he is considering that person for marriage. I think one of the next step to that is he may know, and I could be wrong, but he may know that he's considering this person for marriage, but it could be some things that she does that makes him hesitate, and he just needs a little bit more time. Now, I'm one of those people like you, Miss Cheryl. Like, I'm not. I in my life have not, been one that's we just gonna kick it forever. I think my ex-husband and I dated for 2 years, and then we were married. So I'm with you, but I have heard men say, "Yeah, we know if we're interested, but we also watching her." And she I might need a little bit more time. So what are your thoughts, fellas?
I mean, for me, I don't believe it's a timeline either. I mean, I believe it's just when you're ready. I mean, both parties got to be ready. One may be ready, one may not be. I mean, I've seen people, get married after a year and get a divorce. Like she said, I've seen people be together for a while and still get divorced. I mean, it just all depends. Most people, they got to know that they can deal with you through every facet of life, like through the darkness, through the light, through the good, through the bad. I mean, until I know that, I mean, I can't do it. I mean, that's how most people feel. You're going to argue with anybody. You're going to bicker with them. I've seen dudes, man, she got attitude, I'm leaving. I mean, the next one going to have attitude. So it's all just timing. If you can deal with that person, I mean, it just when you're ready.
Right.
Can we have some success stories? Have y'all have it been some people been married for a year and still together? They're still thriving.
Yeah. I had that thought.
My parents been married 32 years. They've been married 32 years.
Marriages.
Yeah.
32 years. Yeah. And I know people. I used to have a client. She and her husband. Well, they were dating for like 3 months, and they got married. They've been married like 30 years. They're still married over 30 years. So there are those success stories. And so to Kellen's point, time, it's a matter of attraction. To Valden's point, I think core values, and there's really no 100%, formula.
So I got a success story for you.
Okay, good.
Kim, you've heard my story before.
Yes,
so
I have.
I started talking to my wife April the 18th, 2010, the day she was on her way back to Jamaica. And we Skyped for April, May, June, July, August, and she came to visit me in September. I kissed her for the first time in October. Kissed her and got engaged in October, and we got married in November. I probably would have married. I would have married her in October had the lawyer told me that I needed to wait at least 90 days since she had just come to the country. And that was 11 years ago.
That's definitely a success story. Yeah.
Nice.
I was gonna say I know some people who have, they dated when they were in high school and got married at like 19 and still married. So it does happen.
Yeah. I had a lot of people from my college met in college and are still married. So it definitely does happen. So there are a lot, and that's one of the things that we've discovered through these weeks. To Al's point about the differences in this conversation versus that conversation, and the likeness or the similarities as well. Was somebody about to say something? I thought I heard.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we don't leave that on the table without putting some context around that, because I don't recommend most people do that. Like,
right.
From my perspective, I was 41 when I got married for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be married since my early 20s. Mm-hmm. And I did a lot of work during those years. And I had my day when I was in the streets, but I wanted to be married. And I read books and I studied, and I went into relationships with my eyes wide open, looking for what I needed in a wife, not just what I wanted in a wife. Yeah. And also trying to understand what I didn't want in a wife and what would be bad for me. So I spent many years working on that. So when she showed up on my doorstep, I knew exactly what she looked like, right? So there was no need for me to tarry. but most people don't know that, right? And that's one of the biggest issues when I talk to single people, because I want them to have the same experience that I have. But I ask them, I ask the question, why do you want to marry? Why do you want to be married? I also ask them, what is it that you're looking for in a person? And I ask that question to bring out the conversation. But most of the time, by the time we get to the end of that question, they have no idea what they're looking for. Right? They could tell you a long list of things that they want, but we got to understand that what you want in a spouse and what you need in a spouse to make you happy are two different things, because that excitement that you like in him right now is annoying to you when you get in a relationship and it looks like irresponsibility.
Yeah.
Right. And we can go back and forth with a lot of those types of traits. So I just wanted to put that out there, that for people who, one of the things I would urge single people to do is get to know yourself. And you can't fully get to know yourself in the context of another person without spending some time with other people. Right. But, if I had it my way, I would say to single people, stop treating everybody that you go out with like a prospect. Right. But I get a lot of pushback on that, because women will say to me, well, I don't want to waste my time going out with him if he's not a potential. But don't get me started. It's like a whole conversation we can have along those lines, but you got to do the work so you understand what your person looks like, so you can recognize them when they show up.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly believe in dating, Valden. I mean, because a lot of people, especially in our culture, don't know how to date, or don't or feel like, okay, I like this person, I'm going to spend that time here, and then that's that. They don't go out with multiple people. And I wholeheartedly believe in dating, just dating. Like, okay, let's go to dinner, let's go to lunch, let's have coffee. That's dating. But a lot of people don't know how to do that. It's a very uncomfortable place for them. And I believe it's sometimes a generational thing. And then just sometimes, what you know, you don't know what you don't know. Al, you had one last question. Did you want to throw that out? We need, as we wrap up, and did anybody have any comments or thoughts? Looks like I saw some leaning forward. So did anybody before we move on?
I had one thing that helped me. My sister is actually a marriage coach. Shout out to Love Holder Marriage Coaching. And
you look like her. I was thinking you look like somebody. Okay.
Yeah, that's my sister. So, I called up a lot and talked to her about certain things. And one question she asked me was simply why? Why does that bother you? And when you get down to the root of some of these issues with sometimes we may have with our partners, it's really not them. It could be us. So again, doing that work, knowing who we are, and then knowing what we want, like we put all that together, we can have some good, healthy relationships.
Yeah. I think one of the things I learned when I was married is intention. Like, trust that somebody's not out to get you. And so sometimes you have to take a step back and look at yourself, like, why are you not trusting this situation? Like, what is going on with you that you feel like this person is out to get you, or out to harm you or hurt you? So that's what that makes me thinking about. Like, do they really have bad intentions, and revisiting that.
And that relationship trauma will make you think they have bad intentions. You will go into it and say, that baggage.
Yep.
So we cannot end this show without talking about sex. We can't do it. We just can't do it. So I'm sure all of us can agree that the culture is for sex before marriage. I'm sure all of us agree that. Is there a benefit of abstinence before marriage? And let's go to Coach Kell.
I mean, I don't know if it's a benefit. Me personally, I don't know if it's a benefit, but I mean, it could be depending on the two individuals. I mean, a lot of people, they want to sample it for or whatever. But I mean, for me, it all depends on two individuals. Can you handle that? One person may be okay with that, the other person may not. You may be okay with that, the other person over here with Susie Q. So it's all in. And how you feel and the other person feel. For me, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't know. It just depends on the individual.
Angie, I need to test drive the car before I buy. LOL. We know how you feel. Anybody
right,
else?
I have a comment. So, and I'll just be transparent in this regard. Hopefully, it's still PG-13, Al. Um, Back in the day, I was choosing abstinence, right? And what I found was when I was having these conversations, I was dating, all we talked about was sex. Like all the time, because you're not having sex, but you talk about it all the time. So where I am now, like I can have sex with whoever, but I choose not to. So it's different, right? It's not more of a I see it, but I can't have it. It's more like I see it, but I don't want it. Or
Mm-hmm.
not right now. Like I feel like more empowered not being abstinent, if that makes sense.
Right. Because it's not a focus. When it
It's
was
not
that focus made it more
bigger than what
of
it
a
was.
challenge. Yeah.
Hmm.
But now that it's not a focus, it's easier to just do and
So
live.
true.
That's what you're
Hmm.
saying. Yeah. I understand that. So the culture, though, you're saying, Al, the culture is for um, premarital sex, while the previous culture, generationally, so it was happening. It was happening. It just wasn't as forthright. Like people weren't as forthcoming about what they were doing. And now, I mean, you could turn on a video and what's happening. Whether it's GPG, whatever. So it's in commercials, it's everywhere. So any other comments or thoughts? Okay, Angie, she said yes, sis, I'm currently celibate. Awesome. Any other thoughts, comments? Any last, as we close, as a single person, we talked about self-care. We talked about, we didn't get back to the narcissist thing. I think that's going to have to be another show because I know that's a big hot topic word going around, as well as red flags. That's another hot topic word that's going around. So we'll have to do another single speak and really dive into some of these topics and how we could be setting ourselves up for success and or failure as well. And then settling was another word. But let's talk about self-care, that word, as we close out. What is something that you all as single, whether you're in a relationship, just the fact that you're not married, what is something that you do for yourself, weekly, daily, whatever, in order to love on you? Some people call it date yourself. We'll start with you, Brittany.
Quality time is big on me. I didn't introduce myself I'm a teacher, and I'm also a mom. So it's hard to get that quality time by myself. So if I can, take a bubble bath or whatever I can do in some free time, that's self-care for me.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Kellen?
For me, same thing, pretty much same thing. Just quality time, relaxing, chilling, sleep. Anything to preserve my mind. I mean, in any relationship, I feel like you got to preserve your mental. If anybody disturbs that, you're not gonna be able to function or do anything. So me, just self care, just being by myself for a while.
Mm-hmm. And Elena?
Yeah, the same thing. Like I love taking baths, just relaxing, watching mindless TV. I have a lot on my plate, so just literally just like zoning out and just daydreaming, like just all the things, taking walks. Those are the things I do. I hang out with my friends a lot too.
And Angie said, take myself on dates, do what I want to do when I want to do it. Great advice for everyone. I love the taking time for yourself, however that looks. If it's taking yourself out on a date, if it's in home, just spending some quality time with you, lighting one of Elena's candles or whatever it is, something that is of value to your self-care. And I really think it's important. I think we've all been echoing this, to really get to know and understand yourself, especially if you're single after divorce. To really get to understand who you are as a single person, really, as you were talking about this whole time, being healthy after those particular instances, or even a long-term relationship. Sometimes it feels like a divorce when you end it. And so really getting back to the core of who you are and loving on yourself, that's one of the things that I think is essential as a single person to your happiness and wholeness. And so, Valden, you had given us some advice a little bit ago. And so I wanted to kind of echo off of that. So tell us how we can follow what you have going on as a dating coach and matchmaker. I think we can
And
share some
I would
information.
also, as he's about to share that, I would also
Yeah.
love if you leave us with, give us your, your best advice for anyone who is, looking for a relationship or looking for marriage. What is some of like some best advice you can give?
Yeah. So my name is Valden, and you can reach me at valdenjohnson.com or at Valden Johnson, all over the place. But when it comes to advice, like I think this advice culture is part of the problem, because there's a lot of people out there giving advice, and and people who don't know good advice from bad advice. And on top of that, advice is often nuanced by how old you are and what your experience is and what your race is and all of those sorts of things. So I generally try not to give wholesale blanketed advice in forums like this, because it drives different ways depending on who you are. But here's one solid piece of advice that I think works regardless of who you are. And that's basically what we just talked about a moment ago, is that, you've got to consciously figure out what it is that you need in a relationship. You've got to consciously figure out why you want to be in a relationship. And you have to understand what that other person looks like, so you can identify them when they show up. That's the one solid piece of advice that I can give to just about anybody. And then one other thing I'll say is that, being in a relationship requires skills. And most people spend a lot of energy, gathering skills for all sorts of other things. But very few people will sit down and read a book or seek out the skills that they need to be in a successful relationship. So I would also offer that up too, is, just understand that you could get some relationship skills, whether you talk to somebody or read a book or whatever. Like it's so much out there, but at the same time, that's a problem also. There's so much out there, but you get the point.
I think that's amazing. Some amazing advice, like wholesale. Yes, definitely.
Yes. Lena, can you share your information?
Yes, you can reach me at mind, MIND, body, BODYAND, sense, SCENTS, everywhere. I have a full candle line, and I would love to connect and see how I can enhance and make your home smell luxurious.
Yes, I love it. Brittany?
I am at Brit Shanae on Instagram and Brit Ryans on Facebook. At the Math Diva on Twitter.
The Math Diva? Okay.
Yes, I'm a math teacher. I'll put it.
And Kellen?
You can reach me on Instagram at Coach Kel 35, or we got an online store and a brick and mortar store called Precise Fashions. You can catch us there. We make custom stuff and we sell retail sneakers and everything. So you can catch us any way it go.
Is that in Raleigh?
Our store is in Roxborough, located in Roxborough, North Carolina. And right now I'm gearing up to get a nonprofit going for Men Motivating Men. That's attached to my life coaching, stuff. So Coach Kel 35, just be looking out for us.
So you and Val didn't have to connect, right? Yeah, we got to get you guys connected. All right. So this has been amazing. As you all know, we love having these types of shows. We have done this 4 times, as I mentioned before, and this one has been really fun. I think each one we say the same thing. So thank you all for giving us of your time, energy, especially to those of you who may not be feeling at 100%. We really appreciate you. And thank you to my co-host, Al the Great, for all that you do and for our partnership. I'm so excited to have gotten through another year or this year with you and been able to do some fun projects. I can't wait for 2022 and what is going to happen with our partnership, and then also Coffee and Collaborations Media and with your new things that are going to be coming. So you guys make sure to follow us at coffeeandcollaborations.com, Coffee and Collaborations Media on all platforms. We also offer sponsorship opportunities as well as advertising and marketing opportunities for entrepreneurs. So be sure to check us out so that we can support what you have going on by way of advertising and marketing through Love and Flow TV or any of the other podcasts that we have. So thank you again for joining us this evening. To our audience, thank you for all of your comments and feedback. We will see you in 2022. You all have a great night.
Good
Thank you,
night.
guys.